because our deepest wounds often reveal our greatest purpose. Welcome to the Court of Connection. Today, I am speaking with Kute Blackson, transformational teacher, visionary, and the author of You Are the One and Magic of Surrender. Kute's work is centered around awakening, truth, purpose, and remembering who we are beneath the conditioning. His story begins in Ghana, weaves through London, and then into an unexpected calling that brought him to America at 18 with nothing but a dream. And that journey has since touched millions. Today, we are exploring how to return to ourselves, how we listen to the soul's whisper, and what it means to surrender into the life that wants us. Welcome, Kute. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor. Okay, let's just jump right in. Your work is so deeply rooted in purpose and authenticity. What moment in your life most awakened you to your purpose?
I don't know if there was just one moment. I think it's been a series of awakenings, a series of initiations, a series of openings. My whole life, I feel like I've been on a path of purpose, a path of awakening on some level. I was born into it. My father's from Ghana. My mother's Japanese. I grew up in London. I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. So that really set me on a path of trying to understand who am I and why am I here and where am I from and where do I fit in, where do I belong? So I started questioning at a very young age. And that set me on a deep introspective path. My upbringing was a bit unusual also. My first memories as a young boy was seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor. She picks up the gravel the sand that this man walks on and wipes it on her face and stands up, and miracles, blind people seeing, deaf people hearing. The same man whose hand she picked up will look at a person in a wheelchair and say, why stand up, you're not sick, and he would put his hands on them and they would be healed. And so this man was my father. And so I grew up in this environment of possibility and sense that my father built 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa, a huge church in London. So I was kind of born into a environment, an atmosphere of service. It was all about being of service to humanity in some way. I didn't think of it as purpose, but it was just natural. It was just the way things were. And when I was age 8, I started speaking in my father's churches. I was just thrown into the audience one day. And when I was age 14, I was ordained as a minister. And you could say my entire life was pretty much set out for me. My path was basically scripted. And I remember when I was 14, I knew I wanted to make a difference. I knew I wanted to make an impact in people's lives, but I didn't feel like this was my purpose. This was my path to take over my father's church. And, he announced me as his successor. So I never felt this was quite my dharma, the reason I was born. Yet as a young boy, I think like many of us, I did not have the courage to speak my truth. My fear was, if I dared to speak my truth, if I dared to be myself, if I dared to be who I really am and follow my true calling in life, then I'm going to be outcast, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to lose my father's love. And I think I was terrified as a kid. I was 14. And so I said nothing. And I became ordained as a minister. And for 4 years, I served the community and I did my part and I spoke in my father's churches. And yet, privately, I wrestled with this question of who am I and why am I here? And I did a lot of soul searching. I tried to fit myself into this box of being who I thought I needed who I thought the world wanted me to be in order to get love and validation and approval. And I think like many of us do, we contort ourselves into a shape of becoming the person we think we need to be. And I became miserable in the process. And when I turned 17, I would say almost 18 is when I reached another point of initiation where I felt my soul calling me. I felt my soul saying, go to America. Like my soul nudging me to the US. Growing up a poor kid in London, it's like the US seemed like the dream. And yet it made no sense to my mind. It made no sense to my logic. It made no sense to my brain, because I knew no one in the US. I had no money. I had no college degree. I chose not to go to university because I figured life has more to teach me. And so this just sounded crazy, yet everything felt right. Everything felt true. And what I've learned throughout my life is whenever you follow your soul, whenever you follow the truth of your soul, and many times your soul's guidance does not come in the form of logic. It arises from the unconditioned dimension of your being. So it doesn't fit into your mind's understandable pattern. It often it's beyond the mind. And so it didn't make sense, yet everything felt right. Go to the US, go to America. And it was undeniable. And what I found is whenever you follow your soul, whenever you follow your truth, whenever you follow that thread, that deep, authentic impulse inside of you, you always be guided in the right direction at the right place at the right time with the right people doing the right thing, even though the path that you take may not be the one that you most expect. And so I said yes. And that's when another initiation point, as a 17-and-a-half-year-old kid, had the conversation with my father. He's not someone you really talk to or express your opinions to, but I had this conversation. Said, I'm leaving the church. I'm following my path. Long story short, we didn't speak for 2 years, which was devastating and heartbreaking. But I knew that something bigger than myself, something more than my mind, my soul was leading me. Something that I could not explain was pulling me. And I just followed it. It made no sense. I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified. Sometimes people think, oh, when you follow your soul and your purpose and everything's going to feel great and you're going to be calm and chill and synchronicities fall out of the sky. And, it's like music and roses and sometimes when you follow your soul's path, all hell breaks loose, life falls apart, shit falls apart, nothing makes sense, and you're terrified. And the truth is, when you're really following your soul, yeah, it's meant to be a bit scary because you are moving into the unknown. So I would say if you're not a little bit afraid, then probably you're on the wrong path. And so I was terrified, and yet I knew I was on the right path. And because I felt that nudging, a sequence of events happened in my life where I ended up winning a green card in the green card lottery that brought me to the US. And as a result of literally winning a green card in the green card lottery, came to the US, landed in the US as an 18-year-old kid, 2 suitcases, $800 in my pocket, knew nobody in Los Angeles, and just started following my dream. And my dream was I wanted to go into this field of spirituality and personal growth and self-help, because as a young boy, around age 8, age 9, I started reading all of these self-help books and just trying to understand my life and understand myself and understand where do I come from and who am I, where am I going and what's my purpose. And so I probably read 800 books between 8 and 18, just trying to understand life. And all of the Western authors or the American authors lived in California. And specifically San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County, maybe San Francisco. And I wanted to come and learn from these people. And so 18 years old, I landed in LA and went and found many of the authors that we've heard of, and Chopra, Tony Robbins, Mark Fitzhanson, Jack Canfield, many of these folks, and Marianne Williamson, learned from them, studied with some of them, and then went on my own path. And my purpose, I think, was really, there came a point where I was tired of reading the books and I was tired of following someone's path. And when I came to the US, I ended up wanting to do a talk show, a TV show. And I thought, I'll be the next Oprah, And after a sequence of events and getting rejected and then being offered a show, I didn't do the show because I was guided to not do it. But that led me into a bit of a depression where it was a funk where I just threw my arms up to the universe and said, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do anymore. I've tried everything to make things happen and nothing has quite worked out the way I thought it was going to work out. So screw it. Just show me what I'm supposed to do with my life. And that took me to go and basically shave my head, break up with my girlfriend, put everything in storage. I had a bit of a crisis and ended up going to walk the Camino in northern Spain, an 800-kilometer trek on a vortex ley line that was quite transformative. Me, God, and a backpack, basically. And it was there after 28 days that I was guided to go to India. And it was my time in India that really, for me, cracked me open to the true sense of understanding who I really am and understanding my true purpose in life. And it was really as a result of that that I came back to the US and wanted to, 20 some years ago, was guided to coach people before coaching was a thing, before coaching was a topic, or there was social media. Was guided to really to coach people, and I call it uncoaching.
Yes.
Uncoaching people from the patterns and layers that we've all developed, and so that started my life and my purpose, and it's always been to help elevate consciousness and help people heal and transform, and that's what began.
Gosh, there's so many good nuggets in there. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's something that stood out to me was you're so right. When we're stepping into something unknown and we're following the soul's calling, it is really terrifying at moments. How did you navigate, this rejection from dad, this going, just totally, how did you navigate the emotions and fears that were coming up along that path?
I wish I could say it was easy, but it wasn't easy. When I knew that I had to leave my father's church, it took me 4 years to even muster the courage to tell myself the truth. But I think deep down, we all know the truth inside. We know when that relationship that you're in is not quite right. We bullshit ourselves and we lie and we pretend and we rationalize and we make excuses, and some of them very intelligent and very spiritual, to convince ourselves that what we feel is what we don't feel, that we feel something else. But deep down, we know the truth. We know when we're in a job or a situation or a work partnership or whatever it is that is not right. We know when we are saying yes to someone else, but betraying our soul. We know. And I think one of the things that keeps us stuck really are all the ways that we lie to ourselves as human beings. And so I wish I could say, oh, it was easy. It was terrifying. I was freaking terrified. But I felt like I didn't have a choice. You see, when I looked into my future, I saw that I could follow the expected path. I could. My life was scripted for me, like many of us, whether we're conscious or not. Our life is scripted by our parents, by our childhood, by our pain. Many times we're living out the pain and the programming of our childhood unconsciously, our grandparents, our generations, our ancestors, and we're just living it thinking we're free. But the degree to which we're conditioned is the degree to which we're actually not really free. We're being run by the conditioning unconsciously. And so when I looked into my future, I saw, yeah, I could follow the path, take over my father's church, be incredibly successful. But when I projected age 20, age 30, age 40, age 50, age 60, age 70 into the future, I saw that it felt like a death, because if I didn't have myself and I didn't have my soul, I didn't have my truth, my own sanity, then what kind of success is that? And my heart, I felt such a pain in my heart, feeling the disalignment, that disconnection. And so I was just, it took me 4 years to get real and honest about that. Like, wow, this just isn't right. And it's painful to feel. I think many times as a coping mechanism, we know the truth inside, but we lie to ourselves about it. No, it's not a big deal. No, I can come. No, this relationship is cool. No, she has potential. He has potential. And the truth is, we learn all sorts of strategies and mechanisms to numb the pain. We drink it away, smoke it away, sex it away, shop it away, travel it away, meditate it away, medicate it away, whatever it is, so that we don't have to feel that pain inside, right? It just allows us to just keep doing what we're doing, which is not really working. And so after 4 years of just feeling pain and getting honest with myself, I think one of the keys to dealing with things is to tell the truth to ourselves about who we are and what we feel. And for me, it was like, I'm scared shitless. It's scary, but it's like living another way is too painful. And when I felt the pain of the truth, I knew what I had to do. I wish I could say I was happy. I wasn't happy because I knew what that would mean for my life. I knew that. I think many times we're afraid of telling the truth because we're afraid of the consequences. Oh shit, what's going to happen in the relationship? Oh shit, I'm have to leave my job. I'm going to have to leave my wife. I'm going to have to leave. And so we distract ourselves. And so I knew that for me, it meant I was going to have to break my father's heart
Mhm.
It meant that I don't know if he'll speak to me. I don't know if what would happen. And I had to make peace with the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario was my father may never speak to me again. And I would have to make peace with losing, not having a relationship with my father and losing that relationship with my father. And I
Mhm.
had honestly grieve it. I had to
Yeah.
grieve the death of the life I thought I was going to be living. I had to grieve the death of who I thought I was. I had to grieve the death of any hope of connection with family. I just grieve it. And it took me 4 years to really just grieve and let it go. And it was
Mhm.
painful. I did. I made peace. You know, it wasn't easy. I remember when I had the conversation with my father, I was terrified. When I left the conversation with my father, I was terrified. And I wept after that conversation because
Mhm.
I knew the ramifications of what just happened.
Yeah.
But I made peace, you know, I made peace. I remember when I first came to the US, 2 suitcases, one a green card, knew no one in the country. I was terrified. I'm like 18 years old. There's no internet. I didn't know. I literally didn't know up. But the first person I knew in America was the taxi person who picked me up at yes. That was my first friend, right? And he drops me off in Venice Beach. Back then, Venice Beach was not a hit place. And I cried for 2 weeks. Like, what the hell am I doing? Maybe I made the wrong decision. My mind is going crazy. And yet, underneath it all, I felt that there was something that was true. So you
Mhm.
can be scared and you can be terrified, you can be all of that, but you don't have to let that run you. You don't have to let it control you. You can feel it all, but know you are not your fear. And most of us, we allow our fear to stop us. We allow our fear to inhibit us. We allow our fear to limit us from really saying what we want to say and doing what we want to do. And
Yeah.
so I felt it. And honestly, I just kept putting one step in front of the next and another step in front of the next and another step in front of the next. And I had no idea what I was doing and where I was going. And I think the myth is people say you have to know where you're going. You have to know, you don't have to have any clue where you're going. But if you just follow the energy of your soul and allow it to guide you, right? Allow it to go and just put one step in front of the next. Can I put one more step in front? Yes. There were so many times where I wanted to give up. I was ready to get back on the plane and quit. And I just said, okay, can I just do one more day? And
Mhm.
led to the next and led to the next. And then I met one person and that opened up another door. And then I met another person and that opened up another door. And before you knew it, all of a sudden, slowly, all of a sudden things opened up. And it was a slow process, but it was an amazing process of life. You know, I believe that when you take a step, life will show you. Most people, they wait until they have no fear to act.
Mhm.
That will often never come. If you wait till you have no fear, you'll be sitting on the sidelines forever. And so I think you have to acknowledge the fear, embrace the fear, love yourself through the fear, hold yourself through the fear. It's like, it's okay if you're terrified and scared. In fact, I think when you're a bit scared, a bit terrified, it's probably a sign that you're on the right track because you're growing in the direction of growth. And life reveals itself in the process of living, not sitting on the sidelines figuring it out, trying to analyze everything. And so, yeah, for me, that's courage. To really
Mhm.
be courageous is I'm afraid and I'm terrified and it scares me and I don't know the outcome, but I'm gonna take a step and go into this relationship, take a step and speak my truth, take a step and have the conversation, take a step and launch that thing. That's life. Life is risky, you know?
Yeah. I'm literally tearing up over here because I feel like it's so true for so many of us. And I'm at this point in my life where I'm really being asked to like step into courage. And here's what you're saying is that intuition, soul, that whole connection, the voice is so clear, right? It says, do this, take a right, quit the job, leave the partner, right? And then fear comes in and the intuition is very calm, it's very straightforward, but then fear comes in and logic and all of these things, right? And then the mind starts going and it's like, but how, what's and it's always the ego's like, how, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How is this going to work out? And it keeps everybody stuck in this like rat race, right?
Yep.
When our souls are wanting expansion, our souls are wanting something bigger, and we stay safe, you know? And as a result, just end up in pain.
Mm.
And the other thing that deeply resonates with me is leaning into the emotion rather than being afraid of it. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to feel some pain. You're going to feel some discomfort. You're going to feel like you're flat on your ass at moments, right? But we are so much more capable of holding space for that and leaning into that and taking care of ourselves in that than we will allow ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's painful is the thing. Yes. Yeah, it might be painful. Maybe it won't work out. Maybe you'll get rejected. Maybe you'll fail. But the truth is, if you don't go for it and you don't do it, the pain of regret, the pain of knowing that what could have been, the pain of being 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and what you could have lived, but you didn't live, that pain will be so triply intensified from the pain of knowing you went for it and you did it and it didn't work, but you learned and you grew and you evolved, and probably some other amazing things happened along the way. And so I think many of us, we end up, we end up going crazy inside, literally, because we don't follow the natural impulse of our soul. We suppress it. And when we suppress that natural impulse of our soul, it's like we constipate the flow of energy, and that energy doesn't circulate naturally inside of us,
Yes. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you talk a lot about shedding, right? Shedding these old identities, shedding these things that stand in the way, the identities, right? How does one go about starting to do that? And how do you identify that there is, you know what I mean? How do you identify that there is old programming?
Yeah, I think that most of us, we think that we're free, but we're not. Most of us, we don't realize that we're conditioned, or the degree to which we're conditioned. As children, we are born into this human incarnation, and there's a level of freedom that we have. A child is not as conditioned. When we're born, we're in touch with pure light. You look into a baby's eyes, there's a purity there, there's light there. They don't know that they can't dance. They don't know that they can't sing like Adele. They don't know that they can't do certain things, or they have certain limitations. A child will just jump off the table. They don't have fear. They don't know, oh, I'm going to get hurt. There's a free flowing energy there. We were like full of light. You look at a child and they're full of light and essence and energy, and God is shining through them. And so what happens is we incarnate into this human experience, and the conditioning process starts. We meet, God bless them, but we meet our parents, and they're just doing the best that they know how to do based on their childhoods and their conditioning and their parents and their grandparents and a whole generational patterns that were passed down. And so now we incarnate into a preset framework of conditioning, and we meet our parents. And, maybe dad is crazy. Maybe mom is an alcoholic. Maybe they're fighting. Maybe one is beating. Maybe they're abusing. Maybe, there's all sorts of traumas and dysfunctions that we're born into. And we think it's normal because that's all we know. But at a certain point, as children, two things happens where our identity starts getting conditioned in place. The first thing is, based on our environment, we learn all sorts of strategies to shut down, disconnect, and not feel. Maybe dad is screaming at mom is screaming at dad. They're fighting all the time. And as these sensitive beings, it's too overwhelming to deal with this emotion. Maybe they were good people, but our emotional needs weren't truly met. And so that let us feel a bit abandoned and helpless, but we couldn't explain it and we couldn't articulate it because we were little. We didn't have the language and the communication. And so now we're just feeling helpless, not really knowing what the hell is going on. And so we learn all sorts of ways of being to shut down, disconnect, not feel. And unconsciously as children, we learn to suppress our feelings, suppress our emotions, suppress our fear, suppress. And all of the suppressed layers of emotion begins to build up, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and layer on layer on layer of feeling builds up as a sort of self-survival strategy. And our true light, our true authentic nature, our true vulnerability, our true heart often gets hidden underneath all the mountain of unprocessed feelings that we carry with us. And, all feelings that are not authentically or fully felt will often express in unhealthy ways. And so we get sick. So it manifests as pain in our bodies. So we start going crazy inside emotionally. We start feeling depressed because we're carrying so much unprocessed stuff. We learn to shut our hearts, to close our hearts, to erect walls, around our hearts as a way to not feel the pain of mom and dad and childhood and all of that. And so now we've become this person where layers of emotion have built up. We have a wall around our heart, and we can't really open our heart, because to open our heart is to make ourselves susceptible to feeling again, and feeling when we were young, that was dangerous. And so now we're walking through life, guarding ourselves, not even knowing it, because now we don't know any different. We think that the version of ourselves that we've become is who we are. And so then we've learned, again, unconsciously. Most of the programming happens from 0 to 7, and it's unconscious. And the truth is, when we're 0 to 7, as children, our consciousness is wide open. We are so wide open. We are fully available, fully susceptible. We receive everything. We're in that sort of complete state of hypnosis. We're programmable. We're being programmed all the time. So we also then look around our environment, scan, it's unconscious. So we go, oh, who do I need to be in order to be loved? Who do I need to be in order for mom to love me? Who do I need to be for dad to love me? Oh, I'll become the good girl, the good boy. I'll be nice. I'll be the caretaker. I'll be this. I'll be that. And so we start contorting ourselves into a shape of a person of who we think we need to be loved, validated, and approved. Oh, when I'm funny, then mom loves me. When I'm a good girl, oh, dad loves me. So let me be more of that. And so the conditioning process begins where we learn to shut down, disconnect, not feel, and then we become the version of ourselves that we think we need to be. And now we've become a contorted version of ourselves. And that gets reinforced by mom, dad, grandparents, society, siblings, school, education, religion, life. And now we've been so tightened to become this persona. The challenge is the persona that we've become is only the conditioned version of who we think we are. It's not who we really are. Mm-hmm. But now we become so identified with, oh no, this is me. I'm just this way. Is this what we say? I'm just this kind of person. I'm shy. I'm independent. I don't need anyone. Yeah, but we don't realize that independence of what we thought was our independence of I don't need anyone was a reaction to no one being there. So now we become this hyper-independent person. We've become successful being this, but now we can't let anyone in. We can't receive love. We actually subconsciously sabotage and push relationships away because we're afraid and we don't realize. And so it's the thing is, we don't realize that the version of ourselves that we become is not who we really are. It's just who we think. So the first step is we have to become conscious. We have to become aware, and we have to be willing to question ourselves. Who am I? Who am I really? And what do I really believe? And is this what I really believe? Or were these just beliefs that I took on from childhood and parents? And so it can be a bit scary to question who we are, because to question who we are and to let go and to shed and to allow ourselves to, part of the shedding is to allow ourselves to acknowledge the pain that we have, that we've learned to suppress and disconnect from, feel it and let it go. But it's scary because the version of ourselves that we've become is what we can term or call as ego. And the job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt. The job of ego is to make sure you never get hurt again, like you were hurt when you were 5 and 3 and 4 and 8, when dad left and this happened and that happened. This is the job of the ego. And so now to actually shed and heal, you have to be willing to acknowledge the pain, and you have to be willing to acknowledge some of these things you've learned to not acknowledge, and that can feel a bit scary to the sense of self, of who you think you are. And that's what it takes a bit of courage. But if we're willing to acknowledge, like, wow, I am sad. I did need my dad. Wow, I am hurting. Wow, oh, maybe this sort of over independent person that I think I am is not actually who I really am. Oh, maybe there's some sadness underneath that. Maybe there's some grief underneath that. And if we're willing to acknowledge that, and if we're willing to feel that, then we can let go of some of those feelings we've been carrying, so that we can actually let go of the structured way and the layers that we've built up, so that we peel the layers away, layer by layer by layer, and just reconnect with our own true, authentic nature again. And that's the process, I would say, of transformation, the process of true healing, the process of evolution.
Yeah. What's your take on soul? Do you feel like every soul is here to awaken, or do you feel like there are some souls that are not ready to awaken in this lifetime? Because it's hard work, and I don't think a lot of people are willing to face that kind of fear to transform.
I think that we incarnate into this human experience because we have lessons to learn, or we have some, let's just say, unresolved karma to work out. But the way I see this, life is a school. Whether you are conscious or not, life is a university for your soul's evolution. The only thing that is going on, whether you believe it, conscious or not, whether you don't even know, life is a university for your soul's evolution. And everything and every pain, every heartbreak, every difficult experience, every challenge is really part of the curriculum that is serving your soul's evolution. And sometimes you won't know. It's like, damn, that freaking, jerk who broke my heart. That was a part of your soul's evolution, if you're willing to see it. And so if you can start seeing life as life itself is an evolutionary process that you get to go through, a university that you get to go through, and everyone is your teacher, your mom, your dad, your sibling, your cousin, your grandfather, everyone and everything is serving your evolution, if you're willing to see it that way. And if you're willing to see it that way, then it doesn't really matter even so much what happens to you or what is happening to you. What matters more is how you deal with it, and are you willing to look at the lesson for why you're going through that and learn the lesson, shift the lesson, heal the lesson. And I think that's the shift. So will everyone awaken in this life? I think everyone has the potential to. Will everyone? No, I think not everybody will necessarily awaken in this life. But the truth is, the universe doesn't, if life is a school, the universe doesn't care how long it takes you.
Yeah.
It takes you however long it takes you. And you, who knows, lifetimes,
Yeah.
And so in that sense, there's, I think, infinite compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I've really had to learn, is to stop trying to drag people awake.
Everyone has their own path.
Yes.
And everyone has their own lessons, and everyone is also growing at their own rate, and everyone has their own curriculum. Like if you go to university, I never went to university, but if you go to university, someone is doing, high level mathematics, and someone is playing basketball, right? And someone is doing the drama class, and someone seems like they have an easier lesson, I don't know, doing arts and crafts for their major. Yet everyone is doing their own thing. And so in life, every soul, I think, has their own lessons that they need to learn. And the truth is, none of us really know what another person's lesson is. We think we do, but none of us really know what that person's lesson is and that person's lesson. And everyone, like if you look at, let's look at Jesus, okay? It's not a religious conversation, but you don't even have to believe in Jesus, but let's look at Jesus. Judas betrayed Jesus. The thing is, if Judas wasn't the way he was and betrayed Jesus the way he did, then there would be no damn Jesus.
Yeah.
We look at Mother Teresa. Oh, she's amazing. She's incredible. Yeah, but if there was no sick people, if there was no leper, then there would be no Mother Teresa to even help anyone. So in a sense, like if you look at Mandela was in prison 26 years, but there were probably some racist folks that put him in prison, right, for trying to banish apartheid. But if there were no racist folks that put him in prison, there would be no Mandela. And so everyone has their own lessons, and based on the level of their consciousness at a particular moment, and doesn't make it right. It just makes it what it is, you know. And I think the more we can honor everyone's lessons, like a lot of times we want to drag people along. I've been there for sure. I want to drag people along. I want to help everyone. But the truth is, is the best way to help people is to stop trying to even change people. The best way that I learned through a lot of heartache, by the way, the best way to help people is let me help myself. Let me evolve. Let me heal. Let me transform. Let me elevate my consciousness to the highest vibration and the highest frequency possible. And then live my life in such a way of impeccability, integrity, groundedness, creating abundance and joy and possibility, and demonstrating through my life that whatever I believe is working. And if my life works and my relationships work and my life is abundant and I'm making an impact and I'm fully happy and vibrant and alive, then what I found is living my life as an example of possibility is the vibrational, energetic invitation that those in your life will then, at some point when they're ready, they'll and go, what's up? You have a glow.
What are you doing?
You do it. You're driving a newer car, you got a beautiful house, and you're traveling the world, and you're smiling. Like, what's going on? Now they're open. That open is when you can now say, do you want to know what I'm doing? Yeah, tell me. Well, meditation, this, that. Now there's an opening, but until that, they're not available. They're not opening. They're not. I would say they're not ripe and ready. And so I think the greatest thing we can do is be the change, be the example. Example of how you're living your life becomes the invitation to inspire people to want to change themselves. So you can't, and I learned this the hard way, because I wanted to change everybody. You cannot change anyone. It's not your job to change anyone. People only change when they want to change and they're ready to change. That's the thing.
Right. That's right. And I've done it for two reasons. A, just because I'm really excited, I'm thriving, I'm having this experience, and I want you to have it too. But also there's been times in certain relationships where I just want you to, I want to drag you up so that I don't have to do the hard work. You know what I mean? And I mean, that was a hard truth I had to, because if you get better, then I don't have to have better boundaries. If then I don't have to be responsible for the hard things that I'm being that are being mirrored back at me, So, so your mother's passing deeply shaped you. What did she teach you about surrender?
Wow, my mother was such a beautiful being. I feel her every day of my life. And my mother really taught me about real love. And I would say I know real unconditional love because of my mother. And my mother, on one level, was a simple woman. In 2016, she was diagnosed with stomach cancer. And that was devastating. I was living in LA, where I lived for 20 some years. I started to fly back and forth. My mother lived in London, so I started flying back and forth from LA to London, literally every month. For a week out of every month, I was flying back and forth. 3 weeks in LA, traveling, a week with her. And I'd be with her during her chemo sessions and, doctor's visits and hospital visits. And I remember at first trying, I was determined I was going to heal my mother and get her well. And after a few weeks, I would say, I realized she's not really cooperating and she kind of has her own path. So I had to just let go. And I decided that I was just going to be with my mother and show up and just love my mother. And I would sit with my mother in chemo sessions, and we would just talk about nothing. We would talk about nothing and everything and shoot the breeze and have a cup of tea and just sit together for 8 hours, just talking. And I remember feeling like, wow, the only regret I have in my life is not spending more time with my mom. That's like I traveled the world, done all this amazing stuff. The only thing I really regretted was why did I not spend more time with my mom? Like I thought I had time. I thought there was time, and all the things that I thought I would do, that I wanted to do, that I would not get to do. It's just like, wow. It really reminded me of what was truly important in life, you know? And I remember one day the doctors came to us and they said, look, there's nothing else we can do for you. So get your affairs in order. That's what they told my mother. And it was a shocking, I knew it was coming, but the reality of that moment is still, it gets you, you know? And I remember feeling just like so raw in that moment. And I looked my mother in the eyes. We left the doctor's office. And there's one day I looked my mother in the eyes and I said, are you afraid? And my mother said, no, I'm not afraid because I know I'm not this body. It is just a temporary vehicle for my soul. She goes, one day this body will go, but what I am is eternal. What I am will transcend. And I'll be with you from the other side. And I was like, wow, okay. Then I looked my mother in the eyes because as close as I was to my mother, I felt like I was not a good son because I felt like so much more I should have done, could have done. And I looked my mother in the eyes and I said to her, okay, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want me to get you? Like I just wanted to make up for the time. And she said, and this is what really taught me everything about her. She said, there's nothing I want and there's nothing I need. The only thing I need and the only thing I want is what God wants for my life. That was it, plain and simple. And it really hit me. It's like, wow. It's easy to say, yeah, I surrender when you get everything you want. Yeah, I surrender with your life. You surrender when your bank account is, got millions. But when you're faced with your mortality and death, I saw that the reason my mother was so at peace this entire year was she was living and demonstrating to me without telling me. She was living surrender. She was embodying and living it. And that changed my life. She was not attached to living. She was not attached to dying. She was free. Truly, she wasn't attached to either. She just wanted the highest unfolding for her life. That was her freedom. And that's how she lived her life. And when I really reflected on my mother, I saw that this is how she lived her entire life. This is how she lived from when I was a child. I just wasn't paying attention because she's just my mom, Yeah. And I realized, wow, my mother's an enlightened being. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
It really took to heart her example and what she lived during the final year. What started out as the worst year of my life ended up becoming the best year of my life. And that was So my mother she taught me so much without saying. She taught me so much without words. She taught me so much without having to be a teacher. She taught me so much having to be in front of anyone. I grew up thinking, oh, my dad is the great one because he's the one on stage doing all of the talking and, everyone's, oh, my dad. But my mother, I realized that my mother was the real great one this whole time. Because she didn't say anything. She didn't need the limelight. She didn't need the attention. She didn't need the validation. She just knew who she was in her connection to God and the divine and her own soul. And when it came time to die, she was completely unafraid.
Just a living embodiment. That is embodiment.
Yeah.
It's absolute embodiment. How do you feel like your relationship with your mom has changed now that she is on the other side?
I feel closer, closer to my mother. For me, death is really just a change in the costume that we truly wear. Because the body is just the costume that consciousness is wearing. Yeah. The costume that our spirit is wearing. And it's just a change in the costumes, the costume change. Like when you go to bed at night, you take your clothes new costume, wake up, new costume in the morning, tomorrow, another outfit. You're not going to wear the same outfit for the next, 2 months. It's just another changing costume. But every time you change your, costume, it's not like, oh my God, it's just a change of costume. And so for me, death is a change of costume. And I remember when my mother died, I really just allowed myself to grieve. In those initial weeks where I just would allow tears to flow, if that's what happened, I would allow myself to journal and write. And I remember feeling like my heart broke open. And it was like my heart would break open. And the interesting thing is my heart didn't break, it just broke open. The current shape of my heart broke open and it was bigger. And I was able to show more love. And when I really felt who and what my mother really is, like up until that moment, she was this little Japanese woman, 5'4", whatever, little body, just little ears, and my mom, right? But in the moment of her dying, I realized she wasn't this body. When I felt her, she was an essence. She was an energy. She was no longer limited to this body anymore. She was everywhere. She was outside of me. She was inside of me. My connection was no longer limited to calling her up and having to be on the phone with her, and she's here and I'm there, and we're separate. It was as though the form shattered and the connection it's like the connection was ever omnipresent. And so I felt her in a whole different way that was no longer limited to the 3D. It was no longer limited to this little person called my mother. And feeling my heart break open and open. And I felt more love and more love. And when I felt what my mother was, my heart would break even more because the love that I felt that she was in her essence was so excruciatingly I don't know. It was so full that it just broke my heart. And so I really got to experience the real essence of my mother when she died. So I felt her over these years. There are some very strange things that happened for me immediately after she died that I knew the hand of my mother on the other side. I felt her guiding me in strange ways.
Wow. So beautiful. If someone's listening who feels like they're standing on the precipice of like life ending and another beginning, what do you want to tell them?
Let go. Next level of your life requires the next level of you. The next level of you requires that you let go of who you've been. The next level of you and the next level of your life requires letting go of the idea of the life you think you should be living. The next level of you requires that you let go of the idea of the life you want to be living. And so you cannot manifest the new being the old. You cannot manifest the new being who you were and what worked in the past. And so as scary as it can feel, as scary as it can seem, you have to let go. And most of us, we don't realize that as we're in that process of, oh my God, we tend to hold on. We tend to hold on to what is no longer working. We tend to hold on to what is no longer aligned. We tend to hold on to what doesn't work because it's familiar. And so we hold on for dear life, not realizing that in holding on, it's not God. We are the one that is actually blocking our blessing. And so I think to let go. It's when you let go of what is no longer aligned and who is no longer aligned and the people that are no longer aligned, then you demonstrate your trust in the universe, but you also are making space in your life. And there are moments in your life when life is trying to bless you, when God is trying to shower blessings into your life, but your door is closed. Room for more blessings because you're in a relationship that you know is wrong and it's toxic and it's not quite right, but you're staying in it out of familiarity, out of comfort, out of this, out of that, deep down in your soul, you know it's wrong. Meanwhile, you're praying for a soulmate. It's like there's no space for your soulmate to show up when your life is clouded. There's no space for the new to show up when the old is is taking up so much space in your energy, vibration, in your consciousness, in the closet of your mind. And so I think we have to make space. And then, yes, we have to also allow ourselves the process of grieving. Many times we cannot fully surrender to the new. And like, how do I open my heart to the new? Because we haven't really grieved the past. It's like you're in a relationship and you break up. And the worst mistake someone can do, you're in a relationship, you break up, tomorrow you start dating someone else. Now, there's all this unresolved pain, sadness, grief, what have you. You drag that into a new relationship, your heart's not fully open. Now you're in a relationship with someone that could be the right person, but 40% of your heart is not available because you're still back there. So now you're 40% of your heart's not available to who's in front of you right now. And so I think to really accept, okay, the old is over. The relationship is over. The old life is over. Accept, oh, maybe what I thought I was going to be is not what I was going to be. Maybe at this stage of my life, I'm not going to win an Oscar. Maybe at this life, I'm not going to marry Leonardo DiCaprio. Maybe at this life, okay. If you can just accept that, then you move into a phase of grieving. The grieving is the allowing. The grieving is the tears. The grieving is the shedding. Many times we're afraid of the grieving because we don't know if we can handle it. We're afraid of the grieving because we're not sure if we can. It's going to overwhelm us, and so we resist the grieving also as an ego strategy to hold on. And so, now the grieving, then we can let go fully and clear fully, to die, to allow the death to the old. And then the new can be reborn, and you don't have to know what will happen. You don't have to know what the new will be. You don't have to know what the new birth will be, the new expression will be, the new relationship's going to look like. You don't have to know where you're going to go next or who you're going to be next. But when you let it die, then there is space. Then you enter what I call the void. And in that void, often there is silence. In the void, there is often like a nothingness. That is the profound time for the gestation of something new. And if you can spend that time, and in that time, pray, meditate, connect, listen to what your soul is seeking to express. Allow yourself to just open yourself and say, God, universe, show me what I'm here to do. I thought it was this. I can no longer live my life of my own will alone. Show me what I am here to. You show me. I am available. I am open. And if you can remain open and available to listening and being obedient, then intuitions, imprints, guidance, synchronicities will start to show you what is next in the void, but you will not be creating from your mind or your logical version of you. Then you can, then as you're guided, you can follow the life. So that's
that is so beautiful. I know we're running out of time and you need to get going. Kute, thank you so much. It has been a blessing and an honor to share space with you. And I love your work. I'm so, just keep being a beacon of light. I know you will. So thank you so much for your time here. And where can we find you?
Sure. My website is kuteblackson.com, Kute, kuteblackson.com. You can find out about my work and events there. The Magic of Surrender book, people can check it out on Amazon. A couple more things. I would say in January, I'm launching a big online event, 8 days online. It's called the Purpose Summit. I'm bringing together some of my friends, and I'm going to be teaching you all about how to find your purpose. It's going to be an 8-day online gathering that's going to transform your lives. It's free. You can go to www.purposesummit2026.com, purposesummit2026.com, and January the 12th through the 20th, 2026, we go live. And lastly, I would say for those that really want to go deeper with me, that feel inspired or a connection from the interview session today, for the last 15 years, I have created, I would say, truly life-changing process. It's a 12-day experience in Bali, and boundless bliss. It's changed hundreds of lives around the world. It's possibly the deepest work and the deepest process that I've created. People say it's one of the most transformational processes on the planet, but it is a 12-day experiential seminar training without walls. I use Bali backdrop, and it's designed to help you identify your sort of unconscious conditioning, help you heal and release the pain and trauma of the past, connect you to your true power, and catapult you forward into living your gifts. In 2024, I was told to halt the journey. I thought it was going to be my last one after doing 24 of these journeys over 50 years. I put it on the shelf and I was creating other things. And in 2025, after not doing any, I was guided to bring it back for one more year. And so it's inspired in some way. If you're someone, you feel your call to make a big impact in humanity and you're ready to release your conditioning, www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. Go to the website, watch the video, and you can apply.
Amazing. And I will make sure and link all of that below in the caption. So thank you again for your time. I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving and Christmas if you celebrate them. And hopefully I'll see you soon. May the cord that binds us to one another and to source remind you that you are never alone, always guided, and always home. Until next time.